most of you know, I'm a school teacher in addition to a traveler. So my time to visit Japan was pretty much limited to the summer. So it either meant going during the sweltering hot days of August or traveling during the rainy season, which tends to be the end of June into early July. And I went with the rainy season. And I have to tell you, even though there were some scary things online about traveling this time of year, I had an incredible trip and it really wasn't that bad. So, if you're limited with the time that you can travel to Japan and are considering the rainy season, I'm here to give you some tips and tricks in order to make your trip a lot of fun and create a lot of memories for the time that you spend in Japan. Because really, a little rain, it wasn't that big of a deal, but who knows? Maybe I just got lucky. First and foremost, when traveling during the rainy season, keep in mind that it's still pretty hot and humid. For example, when I was in Tokyo, it was about 82 degrees Fahrenheit, so that would be about 28 degrees Celsius, but the humidity was really, really high. So, despite feeling the urge to wear like a raincoat, I would actually avoid that because you're going to be super hot. I actually did not bother with a raincoat once during my trip to Japan. Instead, what I did was I made sure that I always had access to an umbrella. Now, luckily, umbrellas can be found absolutely everywhere in Japan. Just pop into a convenience store and you can purchase one. And a lot of the times people just like leave their umbrellas outside of shops, and I went through a ton of umbrellas. I lost them, I misplaced them. I think during my 3 weeks there I went through at least 5 or 6 umbrellas, but they're cheap, they're plentiful, they're everywhere. So don't worry about shoving an umbrella inside your backpack to take with you on an international flight. You can get one in Japan, but also, like I said, lose the raincoat because it's still hot and humid and you're just going to be a hot, sweaty mess on the metro, and nobody really wants to deal with that, especially yourself. Like, I personally hate being a sweaty mess in a coat, so leave the coat at home. Another important thing to consider if you're traveling to Japan during the rainy season is booking accommodation that has laundry service. I wore Uniqlo's Air Sim line specifically because it's very breathable, it's very thin, and it dries fast. But still, if you're sightseeing and sweating all day, that clothing is going to get disgusting pretty quickly. So it's important just to have access to a laundry machine. Everywhere I stayed, I could do laundry whenever I wanted, so that was really helpful. And it's especially important if you're planning on staying in Japan for 3 weeks or more. You don't want to be dragging around all sorts of luggage, even with the luggage service in Japan. So you will have to do laundry eventually. Just make sure that you're double checking those reviews and making sure that your hotel has the laundry service, because I don't know about you, maybe it's fine for some people, but I don't want to be running around looking for a laundromat when I can just more easily do the laundry right at my hotel or hostel. Another important thing to keep in mind, though, is that just because you're traveling during the rainy season, it doesn't necessarily mean that every single day is going to be full on rain for 6 hours where it's just torrential downpouring. Now, of course, you could have some days that are rainier than others, but you'll have days where maybe there'll just be an hour of rain or no rain. It really just depends. So always stay up to date with the forecast. I had quite a few days that were brilliant, bright sun. So don't just consider every single day a washout because that's really not the case. You may just have a couple of hours here and there with rain. Perhaps the most important tip I could give for traveling during the rainy season in Japan is just to stay flexible with your itinerary. Watch the weather forecast maybe 24 hours beforehand to get a sense of how much rain you're going to get and then adjust your plans accordingly. Japan has a lot of really stunning temples, for example, and if there's going to be, say, just a slight drizzle, I will say that the temples look especially beautiful in the rain, so in that case, you may not want the rain to change your outdoor plans. But if it's going to be a full on rainstorm, then perhaps that day opt for one of the many amazing museums, the shopping malls. Japan really does have a ton of great indoor activities as well. So just have that flexibility built in so you don't avoid disappointment. And hey, as a traveler, I always advocate for a little bit of flexibility anyway. I find when my itineraries are so overbooked each day, it takes away a bit of the joy and spontaneity. So, rainy season kind of forces you to fly by the seat of your pants a little bit, which is fun. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering whether or not traveling to Japan during the rainy season is worth it. Personally, I had a fantastic time. Sure, I would have loved better weather. I would have loved not being sweaty. I would have loved less rain. But honestly, it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I absolutely adore Japan. And I would travel this time of year again to experience Japan. I had a great time. Now, I'm sure there are going to be some people in the comments that are going to highly discourage you from traveling during this time of year, which I just want to clarify this was my personal experience. It wasn't a big deal for me. I still had a great time, and I totally get that other people have different experiences. But at the end of the day, if you're like me and limit it to travel in the summer, don't feel too discouraged about visiting Japan in the rainy season. It is truly a lot of fun. And also because it's not peak season, which would be cherry blossom season or autumn with the beautiful fall leaves everywhere, prices also tend to be a little lower, and some of the main sites tend to be less crowded. Especially some of the more popular temples. If there's rain, you won't be as pressed in with people and you can see the sights a little bit better. At least in my experience, that was the case. So if you have to travel to Japan during rainy season, honestly, don't even worry about it. Just prepare ahead of time. Be prepared to do a little bit of laundry. Be prepared to sweat a little bit. Be prepared to buy an umbrella at a random moment and just stay flexible in your itinerary. But honestly, you'll be fine because ultimately, it's better to experience Japan in the rain than not experience Japan at all. It's one of my favorite countries on earth, and you really have to go and visit. So that's all for me. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one. Safe travels and take care.